Welcome, traveler. My name is Winkari, and this is The Journey, a World of Warcraft podcast. A cozy stop along the road where we share stories, reflect on the world of Azeroth, and enjoy the game at our own pace. Pull up a chair, warm yourself by the fire, and let's begin. Well, hello, welcome to episode 5 of The Journey. My name is Winkari. This is December 15th, 2025. It's a Monday. Happy Monday. In this episode, it's going to be a little shorter than what we are used to because our podcast is changing directions. Before we dive into that, a few life updates. Our family had a Christmas movie party, a week ago or so. We had a bunch of adults in our main living room. We had a side living room for the kids. And the adults watched Home Alone 1 and Spirited, the Ebenezer Scrooge type movie with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. It's a comedy musical. Highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Then the kids watched The Grinch, the animated one with Benedict Cumberbatch, and The Polar Express. Those are the two they watched. But that was a lot of fun. Put me in the festive Christmas spirits. Also kind of put me in the festive spirit, but also in the back-breaking, I have a sore back now spirit, is snow shoveling. We have gotten a lot of snow recently here in Wisconsin. Been doing that quite a bit, spending my time shoveling, but also listening to the new Blood Ties album on Audible. Before we dive into today's main topic, we're not going to do a Where in the World of Warcraft Are We segment, but in honor of Player's Housing new launch, we are broadcasting from inside my newly made home in Founders Point. So let's dive into this mysteriously named episode, The Game I Didn't Know I Wanted. A little backstory for us is that one of the streamers that I watch on Twitch recently switched from playing World of Warcraft to Guild Wars 2. I had this streamer on my background for a few weeks, and they started noticing things in the game, the structure, the pacing, the quality of life, the game design, etc., that were really appealing to them coming from WoW to Guild Wars 2. And eventually I found myself agreeing with some of their criticisms of WoW and was curious if I would feel the same way about Guild Wars 2. After a week or so of watching and listening, I logged on myself, and it didn't really grab me at first, the first one or two times playing, but over time I found myself wanting to play Guild Wars 2 and not WoW. For those of you who haven't heard earlier in the podcast, in one of my first episodes, I talked about my backstory, my history with Guild Wars 2. I played all of the first Guild Wars, and was part of the launch of Guild Wars 2, playing all the way through the base game, the first expansion, and then about halfway through the second expansion of Path of Fire. At that time, I don't fully remember why I left Guild Wars 2. It was probably life reasons, possibly because I was a little burnt out, or possibly burnt out by the way that I was playing, which I'll get to later. As I'm playing Guild Wars 2 and really enjoying it and looking back at World of Warcraft, I'm finding myself enjoying playing Guild Wars 2 and looking back on WoW and how much of the game does certain things that I don't really care for. And instead of creating a laundry list of all those things, I will simply highlight the overarching game design choices that precipitated our upcoming change of direction for the podcast. WoW seems to be designed at this point to be counterintuitive to the way that I like to play. I found myself having to try so hard to work against the grain to play the way I wanted. For example, if I want to experience the story of WoW chronologically, not only is it difficult, but it's actually impossible to experience it the same way as when the original content was released. Instead, I have to do little hacks like stopping experience from continuing to accumulate, begging people to run old content with me, or simply run it max level and one-shotting everything, which completes the content, yes, but doesn't necessarily recreate the original experience of doing the content as intended. Next, as the years have gone on, it's clear that WoW has become the king of MMOs, and that isn't changing anytime soon. Unfortunately, with that has come further and further desires for squeezing money out of the player base, while also attempting to make the game as mainstream friendly as to attract as many players as possible. With that mindset, however, I would argue that has created a game that has an identity crisis that has gotten away from its true immersive RPG experience at its core. Instead, it requires the players to figure out a way to actively subvert and go against the grain of the current game design, or as an alternative, fracture the player base and have them go to Classic as their only other fragmented option. Additionally, I found that the choices by the developers have made the game feel like it's always rushing you from point A to point B, and that makes it really hard to fight against the conveniences of this type of gameplay, at the expense of having an in-game experience that feels slower, more measured, and more immersive. There's a lot more I could say about WoW, but I wanted to give some overarching ideas of why and how I'm feeling the way that I feel. As for Guild Wars 2, the game is designed from the beginning to be evergreen content that is always accessible and playable the same way it was at day one. Additionally, the game is filled with horizontal progression instead of vertical progression like WoW has. If you're not familiar, for example, WoW has a gear and leveling treadmill where you outlevel content and gear in this never-ending cycle of vertical progression. In Guild Wars 2, by comparison, you auto-scale to all content that you have out-leveled, and after you reach the max level of 80, which happens in the base game, you never level up again. Instead, you have horizontal goals, such as mastery points, etc., to grow your character in, but can always tackle any content in the game without the need for leveling up your character or gear. Finally, I forgot just how well Guild Wars 2 makes the game feel like an inhabited, living world. And this is one of the biggest draws to the game for me. When you are in the world of Tyria, the game feels alive. From constant ambient sound and dialogue, NPCs that go about their days and interact with one another, including conversations, to dynamic events that change the landscape and leveling experience of each zone. The game best transports me to another world like no other game has. Here's the bottom line. I want to be clear that WoW does some things better than Guild Wars 2. I will miss certain features like delves, dungeons, completely open world continents, and some other quality of life things that WoW has, but not enough to make me prefer it over Guild Wars 2. At the beginning of our podcast, I said that WoW succeeds because it does just about everything above average and has no real weaknesses. I still stand by that statement, but I'm realizing that being above average in all areas of the game is now not enough for me, knowing that the way I like to play and how I really want my MMO experience to feel like a journey. At the end of the day, Guild Wars 2 is more conducive to the type of immersive, journeying gameplay from level 1 all the way to endgame that I desire. And that's the main reason why I'm making the switch. Moving forward, we will still be called The Journey, but it won't be a World of Warcraft podcast anymore. It will be a Guild Wars 2 podcast. And with that, our very short time together comes to a close. Thank you to all of you who have listened to the podcast so far, for your support. I want to be clear that I totally understand if you don't want to listen moving forward now that we're changing our main game. But I would like to invite you to give it a try. Maybe you'll like what you hear and give the game a try yourself. If you don't already know, Guild Wars 2, the entire base game, is free to play. And there are no monthly subscription fees. Ever. So you've got nothing to lose to check it out. Maybe it'll be your cup of tea as well. Who knows? A very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you. I will officially kick off the next chapter of our podcast with an episode in the new year, and I really do hope that you will check it out. Special thanks to Blizzard for our in-game music and sound, and to you for listening. I'll see you next time when the journey continues.